I find that a lot of people underestimate the amount of work that it takes to truly be great at something, and you can get away with it for a certain extent of time, right? Like you can rely solely on talent, I think, to a certain level if you happen to have some God-given ability. But beyond that, it comes down to one thing, which is hard work. Was there a time in your life, do you remember it as being like, I'm here at the field putting in reps when everybody else is going and doing these other things? Do you remember looking back on that for anything
No
like that?
question about it. No question about it. We did that
Yeah.
every year, going home after every season. Every season wasn't great enough for me. And I wanted to improve every year. And me and
Yeah.
myself and Eric Davis and all of us that played together growing up in South Central, we got together every year. The 1st of January, we start our training. We start going into it. We wasn't being in camp until like the end of February, March. But we knew getting ourselves ready was the most important thing. It was never about the ability. We always knew we had the ability because we grew up together and we knew that we had the skill set to play at any level. It's just a matter of how good we wanted to be, and
Mm.
and that was the drive for us. I think a lot of times people don't understand. I was a guy when everybody else was sleeping and kind of laying back and already in the big leagues. I was a guy that was still driving, driving a car to go forward. And I just knew that I wanted to be the best at what I was doing, and for me to get there, doesn't matter how much talent you have. Great players and great athletes are always working when the other guys are sleeping. And when the
Mm.
other guys are sleeping, we're out there training and running and doing all the things that we need to do because our drive is totally different than I'm tired. I'm never tired. It's like I got to get up, I got to go. You have to motivate yourself, and you realize that you don't need anybody else to motivate you. You need to bring the affirmation to yourself of how good you really want to be. And I think that was the drive for myself and my friends as we came together and wanted to play in the major leagues.
Tell us the story of when you got the news that you were actually made it to the majors.
Well, I was excited about the whole fact. I was 21 and I was just playing in AAA. And after playing a few years in the minor leagues, and my manager was Davey Johnson at the time in AAA and Tidewater. And he just sat me out the night I came to the ballpark, and I goes, "Why am I sitting?" And he goes, "Well, you going to the big leagues tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay, but I still could play." He said, "No, I didn't want you to think about all that. I want you to think about you going up and you're going to be playing in the big league." So it was an exciting time for me. And, once I got there, I realized that, it was a lot different than anything that I would ever experience in my life. And it was going to be a greater
Mm.
challenge for me. And I had to really focus in, and I had to really learn the importance of what it is to be in the big leagues. And, I always credit my career going forward to a guy by the name of Jim Fry. He was the hitting coach for the Mets at that time in 1983 when I came up. And he just told me as a young player, he said, if you ever want to be great at this, you need to be at the ballpark early every day. And I showed up. He said, you need to show up at 2 o'clock. I showed up at 3 o'clock, and he just told me, he came up to me and he looked at me, he says, I'm never going to wait for you again. I'm telling you, if you want to be here, you want to be great at what you're doing, you be at this ballpark early every day. And I was at that ballpark early every day at 2 o'clock. And we worked and we worked and we worked, and it just came into play. Everything that he saw in me, everything that he believed in, and that he saw in me, he brought that out of me, and that I became Darryl Strawberry, the player I was.
How many people do you think, in a team culture, a team environment, how many people do you think operated with that mentality? Obviously there's disparity, right? There's professional, sports, professional athletes, but then there's like the guys in the sports. You know what I mean? Like the people that move the sports forward, and the all-stars of the leagues, which you were, I think, what, 8 times, 9 times.
Eight
Um,
times.
yeah, so you obviously played at an extremely high level, at the highest level possible, and there are a lot of other people who didn't do that. So if at this highest level possible, how many people as a percentage do you think were the ones that were still showing up early and staying late?
Well, not many, even showing up early. It's am I really dedicated to it? It's how much work you're really going to put in. Are you just going just to put in a little work, or are you going to really work? And that's what, understanding that with Jim Fry is coming in there, putting in the work so you can elevate yourself to be the best. and that's what he pushed me into. And once I realized that, then I realized I got it. I got exactly what he was saying, because a lot of guys really could have the talent, but are they built inside?
Mm.
You got to be built inside, not what you look like on the outside. There were a lot of more guys, more physical, stronger, a lot stronger than I was, and probably could do more, but they couldn't put all the pieces together. And that's the difference of a guy being able to go to the next level and become great at what he's doing. He mastered it. He puts it in his back pocket, and he keeps it in his back pocket. He don't leave it anywhere. And that's what Jim Fry gave me. What he gave me that year, the work that I was putting in, is to put it in your back pocket and keep it in your back pocket. Because he was like, I'm not going to be here every year, but you're going to have this gift that I'm giving to you. And if you take it and you cherish this gift and you use this gift and you utilize it for good, it's going to change everything about your performance when you play. And it did. Every year I took that gift and I used the gift that I had, and it changed my performance every year.
Besides hard work, Darryl, what are a couple of other things that we might not be thinking about that you view as being crucial if you want to be able to do really anything at that level, but sports in particular?
Well, I think what's really important is discipline. Do you have the discipline to be consistent at what you're doing?
Mm.
And I think a lot of times a lot of guys don't have that discipline. Some guys get caught up into the middle of everything, and they forget about the discipline of the training and the work that you're putting in. See, in the off season, I never let anything get in the way of who I was when I started training. Once I started training, it was everything else was shut down. You leave everything else alone, and you got to separate yourself. And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand, well, why do you separate yourself from everything and everybody when you start training? It's because I'm focused. I got something to focus on. I got something to look forward to. And I think the ones that don't have anything to look forward to, they think they do, but they go halfway about it. But if you want to be great at it, you want to master at what you're doing, you're going to have to be sometime on the outside of everybody else and what everybody else is doing. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to do what my ability that I have inside of me. I want to use that for my gift. And if I try to look over on the other side and say, well, I want to be like him, I want to be like her, then I'm never going to be like me. We're unique people, and there's something great about each one of us. And when we find out about that in ourselves, we usually can take it to a whole different level.
What percentage of baseball would you put as in the everything else bucket versus what percentage would you put in the mindset bucket?
Everything else bucket is it's a big percentage, of players like that, and they wish they could do everything, but do they really work hard enough to do it? Uh, and there's a small percentage, that know exactly, how to conquer this. It's just, maybe 5-10% at the most, because you're gonna have good players, but the great players separate themselves from the good players,
Yeah, right.
that's a big difference in from how it's a lot of times people say, well, is it the talent? No, a lot of guys have more talent than I, but they just didn't, they didn't work hard enough at it. They thought, well, it's just going to come. It's going to be natural. It's going to come. And it
Yeah.
does. It comes natural, but it doesn't matter how much talent you have. You still have to put the work in. And when you look at great athletes, they always want to put the work in. They always constantly working, no matter how good I'm already at it. I got to continue to be working at it to get better at it. And I think that's the big difference. Some guys just get content and get satisfied. Well, I'm just this because this is what they say I am. No, they told me I wouldn't be able to hit like I would with a high leg kick, and where my bat was. They said I wouldn't never be able to get around on fastballs. But guess what? Oops, you were wrong. I did it anyway. But
Yeah.
and that's because I believed in it. So I think that's the importance of one believing in himself in whatever part of life you go through, and you got to believe in yourself.